All right, welcome everybody. My name is Chris Todd, President of the Chamber of Commerce. Michael Keys.
I'm Michael Keys, Vice President of the Star Chamber of Commerce.
I think we all recognize that the city of Star is a pretty patriotic place. So if you'd please join me in demonstrating, we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The City of Star is also a faith-based community, and will you please bow your heads for a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for blessing this venue this evening. We thank you for blessing all of these candidates. We thank you for their hearts, for standing up, for wanting to serve our communities. Father, we thank you for the crowd that's here tonight and for everybody who will watch this recording. We can all be blessed and use wisdom from you to make good choices in this upcoming election. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen. This forum is brought to you by the Star Chamber of Commerce. The Star Chamber is a nonpartisan organization that brings this forum to the City of Star as a service to inform the citizens that are here, those online, and those that will be watching the recording.
Voting is your sacred right. The primary this year is May 21st. Early voting has already started. You can now vote in person at the Eagle Public Library, Meridian City Hall, Ada County Elections, and Boise City Hall.
And we have a little housekeeping before we start. We'll request that we please be respectful to all of the candidates. No clapping or jeering or moaning or cheering until after the introductions and after the event. All legislative candidates have been invited to participate in this forum. A copy of the forum rules were emailed to each candidate. The Star Chamber of Commerce hosts complete unedited recordings of forums. Editing is authorized only for official media reporting. Excerpts or edited clips of the Star Chamber of Commerce candidate forum may not be used for political purposes. Recordings of candidate forums in their entirety are the sole property of the Star Chamber of Commerce and Spirit Media.
We request that the candidates or their volunteers not place flyers on vehicle windows or have your volunteers hand out pamphlets while we are conducting this forum. You're of course welcome to do so in the lobby immediately before and immediately after the forum.
If you'd like to submit a question for the forum today, we will have somebody that will be able to pass along, or actually you'll have to meet up with Jennifer or Katie in the back, and she'll write down your questions and then she'll share those with us, and if we have time at the end, we'll do those.
On behalf of the entire Star Chamber of Commerce, we'd like to thank Spirit Media for recording and uploading the proceedings tonight to YouTube. We'd also like to express our gratitude to the Star Fire District for providing such a terrific venue. And finally, we would like to express our gratitude to these candidates who care enough about our wonderful state of Idaho to just stick it all out there. And since we're in the fire station, by the way, they're having a bond election. There's information on the table if you wanted to get some information about that.
We will now introduce you to the candidates in the upcoming November election. For District 10 Senate, we have Letishia Silva running as Democrat. Lori Bishop and incumbent Senator Tammy Nichols are running for the Republican seat.
For District 10 House Seat A, we have Nancy Parker running unopposed for the Democrat nomination. And for the Republican primary, we have Speaker Mike Moyle, the incumbent. And unfortunately, his Republican challenger, Rachel Hazelip, was unable to join us tonight.
For the District 10 House Seat B, Shanna Tremaine is out sick and won't be able to come as running unopposed for the Democrat nomination, and the incumbent, Bruce Skaug, running unopposed for the Republican nomination.
The purpose of this evening's forum is to hear the candidates discuss issues that are important to the voters of District 10. This is a moderated forum and not a debate. So we've asked the candidates to refrain from being critical of each other and talk only about the issues and their own plans and visions. We'll try to cover as much and as many issues as possible in the time we have. If your question is not addressed tonight, please feel free to contact the candidates directly.
Each candidate will have 90 seconds for their opening statement, and at the end have 60 seconds for closing remarks. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to respond to each question that is presented. We do have volunteers that are sitting in front of you that'll handle the timer.
They'll hold up signs to the candidates when they have 15 seconds remaining and a stop when time is out. If a candidate continues for more than 5 seconds after the stop is given, our trademark cowbell will be rung. This is not a night that any of us could actually use a little more cowbell.
We will have a lightning round near the end where all candidates will be requested to answer questions with a yes or no answer or a single word only. As moderators, we'll be asking the questions. The Star Chamber of Commerce has determined what the questions will be asked in an attempt to cover all topics of interest indicated by questions submitted by Star residents via email prior to this evening and by attendees that are here this evening. This forum is being recorded, and we ask each candidate to speak directly into the microphone so that your responses are heard and picked up by the audio and video equipment. And now we turn our attention to the candidates. Thank you for your time for running for office and participating in this forum. We applaud your passion and the desire to serve our state. All candidates will now offer their 90-second opening remarks. The speaking order for the first question has been determined by a random drawing, and we will start with Speaker Moyle. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Thank you, and thank you to the Chamber for putting this on. It's a pleasure to be here. To start off, I want to introduce my beautiful bride, the one that keeps me in trouble or out of trouble. I'm not sure which. I appreciate her. We've been married for quite a few years. We're a blended family. We have 5 children. We keep all but one of them. One would like to get back. We have 10 grandchildren who we love dearly, and for all of you who don't know, the reason you have children is for grandchildren. We love the grandchildren. They're the joy of the life. They're what makes it all worthwhile. Born and raised in Idaho. Contrary to some of the stuff you hear about me, I lived in Star area most of my life. I remember as a little child, we had a farm on Ustick Road in Meridian, and we had a farm here in Star, and I can remember as a 6-year-old getting on my horse and riding to Star, right back and forth to the farm. And I would never let my grandkid on those roads. I wouldn't let him out anymore. I'm afraid somebody'd steal him. But I've been here to watch the changes that have come with the growth. And some of it's been good, but some of it's been really bad. Like I said, we farm for a living. We raise things from cattle. We have cattle strung between the houses of Nichols and Star. We raise crops like corn and mint and grain. We're very, very blessed. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. I look forward to your questions, and I look forward to talking more about Star and the growth and how we can make things better here in Star and keep Star and District 10 the great place they are to live.
Representative Skaug, but I'm going to adjust the volume real quick, so if you want to give
My name is Bruce Skaug. I live in Nampa, Idaho native, 5 generations. My wife Debbie of almost 38 years now, hard to believe. And we have 10 grandkids, or number 10's on the way in September. 6 kids we've raised here in the valley. I'm a product of Idaho schools, raised in Jerome, born in Pocatello, but my grandparents were all in Eagle, and that's where I would go to visit back when Eagle was a poor town. That's hard to believe, but it used to be that way. And my grandfather was the first mayor of Eagle when they incorporated. He was on vacation when they incorporated, they made him mayor, and he was mad about it, but he stuck it out. I'm a retired lawyer. Just as of 2 weeks ago, this is my 4th year. I finished my 4th year serving in the legislature. Before that, I was on Nampa City Council for 6 years. Enjoyed that a lot. I've had the privilege to pass a lot of bills into law that are substantive, the kind that Star people like, and Nampa people like, the Keeping Idaho, Idaho. And maybe we'll go through some of those on the questions. But it's been a real privilege to serve this district because this is what Idaho has always been that I grew up in, and the values that we have here. So I hope to continue that as your representative.
Candidate Parker.
Thanks for coming. I've lived in Idaho for 40 years now. I grew up in Indiana and taught schools in Alabama, Michigan, and Washington State. And we moved here when my deceased husband got a place with the Boise Philharmonic. Raised 2 girls here. I have 2 grandkids. And now that I have retired from caring for the elderly and disabled to a very small organic farm outside Middleton, I would be perfectly happy to be working on land there if I could rely on the state government to respect my rights and look out for my interests. And I found that I can't. They're not listening. Representative democracy needs people who vote as their constituents want, not as their party dictates, not as unelected lobbyists or think tanks instruct them. We need people who care about the actual wishes of their constituents and want to make things better for them, not take away their rights, our initiative rights, our voting rights, our freedom. And if you want it done right, you gotta do it yourself. So that's why I'm running, to give a voice to working Idahoans.
Senator Nichols?
Thank you. I'm Senator Tammy Nichols from District 10, and District 10 of course takes in Star, Middleton, North Nampa, and some of the surrounding areas. I was born and raised in Boise, Idaho, grew up there, and lived here all my life, minus 1 year when I lived in Costa Rica. I have 5 children, 4 boys and 1 girl, and my daughter is actually graduating the day after the election. So, and then my oldest is getting married just a week and a half after that. So I'm kind of going down that path. I've been in the legislature for a total of 6 years. I served 4 years in the House and then 2 years in the Senate. I'm also the co-chair of the Idaho Freedom Caucus, and I've worked with a lot of local and national organizations. Education is what brought me into this. I was very involved in my children's education upbringing. They all went to school in Middleton and did the whole classroom parent, field trips, the whole 9 yards. And my family ran private schools in Boise for many, many years. School choice is a big issue to me, and that is one of the things that I'm invested in. Most of my legislation comes from constituents, and I kind of think down the road a little bit because I see the things that are happening outside in our nation and around the world. And there's a lot of things that are concerning me, a lot of things that are coming into Idaho. Idaho is under an attack and we are needing to save it. We have people that have moved here from all over the place to be able to come here to help us, I believe, to preserve our state. And I want to work with you and have you show us the warning signs that you've escaped from. But I'm really excited. I look forward to going through this night. Thank you.
Candidate Bishop?
My name is Lori Bishop, and I'm running for District 10 Senate. I was born and raised in Idaho. I was raised on a farm near Kamei, Idaho, and it was a dry farm, so that means I don't know how to set a siphon tube. Siphon tube, right, Mike?
Siphon.
Because we were dry farmers up there. I went to school K through 12 in Kamei High School, graduated with a class of 44 people. I'm a mother of 6. I've been married to my husband for 28 years. I also have 2 adorable little grandbabies. They're just tiny still, but it's been so fun so far. I have worked as a volunteer in my community for years, particularly in the school system. I worked as a classroom volunteer. I served on multiple PTA, PTO, parent advisory committee boards. I was on 3 different curriculum committees. Just finished one up this year, actually, in the Middleton School District. And so I'm well aware of some of the issues that we have in education, and I'm a strong proponent of public education and making it as good as it can be. I also see the growth that we're experiencing here in Star, the tension between the agriculture and the builders and the developers, and that's something that needs to be managed carefully, and I'm eager to work on that.
Candidate Silva?
Hi, my name is Letishia Silva. I'm also an Idaho native, born in Pocatello as well, raised in Cascade, have lived in the big city of Nampa for the last 10, 15 years. I'm a mother of 4, married to my husband for about 8. I'm here to try to just give a variety or an option, if you will. I see a lot of problem solvers at this table, so to be even sitting here, I'm already winning half the battle for myself. So, let's see.
I broke it. For this question, we'll start off with Letishia and we'll just go backwards. And it'll be for a 90-second question for all of you. First is, have you met with the cities and districts you will be representing to discuss the challenges or concerns they have? What were the issues And how do you plan to be a partner with them to address those issues?
So I have met with members of my community. Again, I'm coming from Nampa, so a lot of the questions that I get are very much the same. And it has to do along the lines of the LGBT community. I'm a champion for equality regardless of what my views may be. At the end of the day, we all have to coexist. So I believe safe space should be created for all groups in a way that we can all essentially work together. So my plan is to continue to champion for these groups that may feel like they don't have a voice and give them one.
Have I worked with the city? Have I met with the cities, right? The leadership of the cities? Yeah, great question. So I have met Mayor Queen from Nampa. I've talked with Trevor Chadwick multiple times. Mayor Nichols is down the street from me. She's a friend of mine. So all of those cities. In addition, I've reached out to the mayor and the city council in Caldwell because District 10 actually takes it a little bit of Caldwell as well. I haven't been able to sit down and talk with all of them, but I do have relationships with multiple council members and, like I said, all the mayors. And I am eager to work with them, to be a partner with them and figure out what they need from the state level to help manage the growth. That is their number one issue all the time. Our residents want safe streets, they want stoplights, they want to have an adequate and robust police force, and there's things that we can do at the state level to support our cities. And I think that as a state legislator, where I would learn what those issues are from the people that are in the trenches working in city government, as well as the constituents that live in those areas and see what they want as well.
Thank you. Yes, I have had the opportunity multiple times to be able to talk with our different leaders from Middleton and Star, Nampa, including the commissioners, including I've done ride-alongs with recently the Nampa Police Department, but I've had opportunities to talk with our school board members. So, and each city has its own unique needs. There's a lot of similarities. Yes, definitely growth is an issue, how to manage that. Taxes are an issue, and we have lots of different times and opportunities during the legislative session where we do sit down with them. They come in and talk with us about different bills that are coming up and different questions or concerns or things that they would like to see different. So we have multiple opportunities, and my door is always open. My phone number is out everywhere. There's many different ways to get a hold of me. So, and I handle all my own email, my own phone, everything except for during the legislative session because we do have a secretary to help us. But my door is always open to be able to discuss any issues. Even one of the bills that we ran this session was to help our county to be able to, with the DMV, and that was brought to us by a citizen as well as one of the leaders in our community. So yes, and that's something that I do want to always make sure that we have those channels open. I think communication is key to a lot of what we're doing.
I have not met with the leadership of the different communities that we're talking about. I look forward very much to meeting with them and also to talking to ordinary citizens. Both are important, and I can see where our growth is one of the top issues that I hear about from citizens all the time. Not only is the infrastructure necessarily up to handling the new influx, but also our water resources are extremely stressed by incoming developments. And so, yes, I hope to get a lot more input from both leadership and citizenry.
Bruce Skaug, yes, I've met with the leaders of each of my main communities, Nampa, Star, and Middleton. Having been on a city council, I'm very comfortable going to the city councils and reporting to them. I've reported to Middleton City Council a couple of times, reported to Nampa. But Star, I keep asking the mayor to get me in there, and he just doesn't put me on the agenda. But I meet with Trevor, quite regularly. He's the only mayor I can call at 5 in the morning, and he's wide awake and ready to talk business. And I do that, and it's a real pleasure to work with him. He is a true servant leader to our community there. And they come to me with problems that need solved, and particularly law enforcement. And we have passed those bills because of our local law enforcement coming to their legislator and saying, we need help on fentanyl. Passed a bill to deal with that with the drug traffickers. They're going to get hit hard when they're dealing fentanyl. 521, Representative Moyle championed a tax relief bill that helped our schools. Education is the main focus whenever I go to Milton. I want to talk about all the issues. They just want to talk about education over in Middleton. And over here, it's about the growth and the traffic when I talk to people and the leaders here. And in Nampa, they want to talk about taxes, property relief taxes, and we've done the property relief. But it's because of the input that I have from those police officers and the local leaders who are elected that we've come up with the bill ideas that we do pass and get done. And I'm very thankful for their input, and I have to have it.
I wanted to hear the cowbell.
Wait, but did I get close?
You were close. It was a little longer to get the cowbell. I've been very blessed to have good relationships with all of the local mayors, including those in Eagle and Meridian and other places, and I'm on speed dial. Their biggest concerns are like you're hearing, infrastructure, funding, schools, and it's interesting how important schools are to our mayors and all of the cities too, and their involvement there. And I've been very blessed to be able to help, right? We're getting a lot of things done here. You're seeing some of the results or the fruits of that. Highway 60 is now being extended. That's taken a lot of time. You're seeing some expansion now outside of Nampa as USTIC gets expanded there. You're going to see some stuff if we can, and I know that Middleton's still struggling with how to get the expansion of Highway 44. They're all working together, and they'll find a solution. But I've been very blessed to have the opportunity to talk to them. One of the best things about our mayors too is that all of them are very accessible, and they're not afraid to call. And you're right about Trevor; he will call at 4:35 in the morning. But it's great to have that relationship, that working relationship. When there is a situation that's up or there's a problem, all of us have open doors toward each other and we're able to find solutions. And it's been very beneficial to all of us to have positions we have to help get things done in these communities.
Thank you. Next question. In the last legislative session, what do you think was the greatest success and what do you think was the greatest disappointment? And this time around, let's start with candidate Parker, and we'll kind of go around the other way.
There were some excellent things passed and some that almost passed. We have funded everything and actually made up the shortfall on education funding, which was possibly the most triumphant thing that we did. There were also sad failures. We did not pass an anti-squatting bill. We did pass a bill that is going to make life very, very difficult for our librarians, and that was quite unnecessary. And we passed a bill that attempts to legislate trans children out of existence, contrary to actual reality. That was definitely not a good thing.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say, actually, I'm not even going to talk about a bill that we passed that I think was the greatest success that we had this legislative session. I think it was the budget that we actually got done that was the greatest legislative success that we had. Because that way of budgeting that we were doing before was very similar to what Congress does with an omnibus style bill. You'll hear others go after us for voting against bills in the past, budget bills in the past. And there was reasoning behind that. There were things in those bills, just like they do on the congressional level, where there's other things that are stuffed in there, and they have nothing to do with the topic of the bill. And when you're voting on bills, you have to vote the whole thing up or the whole thing down. There's no picking and choosing different parts that you like. So the way that we're doing it now, we were able to separate those bills so that we have the bill to keep the lights on, keep everything functioning, and then the bill that's for the excess spending. And now that gives us a much better approach. It's much more transparent. It's much more accountable. The bureaucracies have to be more accountable to us. It's better for the taxpayers, and we're able to look at more of the budget that way. And so I think that was our greatest success. I have to agree with my neighbor next door here is the anti-swatting bill. I would have loved to have seen that bill. That was one of my bills. And, I am planning on bringing that back again. It is a very important bill because it protects our first responders and it protects the public. There's little tweaks that we'll make, and I think it'll make it much more pleasant the next go around. But I think that's a great bill. We're seeing that happening all over the nation.
Okay, so I think the best thing that happened this last legislative session was 521, which shifted some of the burden away from property tax to better fund our schools and to give our school districts some relief from bond obligations. I also appreciate that it had a tax cut in there. We all appreciate a good tax cut. Idaho has a nice flat income tax now, and we all appreciate that. Something else is that I'm grateful that we passed the police budgets, particularly the trailer budget that provided for training for the Idaho State Police to go to the border and to be better trained to be able to deter and detect fentanyl, human trafficking, and other things that will be coming our way if we're not careful to keep them out. One of the things that I would have liked to have seen happen in the legislature this year was a modernization of the schools facilities fund and the school funding formula and how we fund our schools. Right now we're really, we seem to be kind of stuck on the idea that kids have to be in their seats and that's how we give them money. I would like to see that shift more towards like an outcome-based funding, and we see how the students in the schools are performing and we add that piece into the school funding formula.
Thank you.
I think for me, what I thought was successful was also the budgeting. There's a lot of unnecessary spending in even some of our social programs. So being able to have that transparency is extremely important. Now we see where our money's going. I didn't really care for some of the restrictions with some of the bills regarding women's reproductive rights, but I think that has to come down to ironing out some of those details in the future. I think we'll kind of take care of that by itself.
There's a lot of good things that happened in the legislature this year, and of course, one of my favorite was the tax relief bill. We gave the M2 tax, we gave property tax relief, we provided money for school buildings. We did a lot of other things. There's some accountability in that bill. That bill was amazing. But we also did some good things. You've heard about the budgeting process, and that's taken us 2 years to get there. The first step was in the House to separate the way we vote, so the House votes separate than the Senate. The next part, which what you saw this year, was the separation for the maintenance budgets and the add-ons, which worked out to be great. It was more transparent. The next step, if I'm reelected, will be zero-based budgeting. We need to go back into those maintenance budgets now and make sure that we see what's really necessary and not. There's some stuff in there that still needs to come out. But we did a lot of other things that you probably don't know about. We did a lot of judicial reforms. Idaho, originally when we were state, wanted the judges to be elected, and you don't know about that. We can talk about that more, but we did a bunch of stuff with judicial reform the last 2 years. The rule process in Idaho, we get national kudos for that. That's taking me years to get done. Rules have the effect of law. Now in Idaho, rules have to be approved by both bodies like a law. Before, the governor would just promote it, and it just happened. One guy could hold the bill, it happened. Now rules you get a look at, they're shades the same as law. It was one of the biggest accomplishments of my career, and I'm very proud of that. There's more we could talk about, but I want to hear the bell. Things that I'm disappointed about. The House did pass some stuff that dealt with some of the problems with illegal immigration that the Senate didn't take up. I wish those would have got through, and we need to do more to prevent illegal drugs from getting here. Yay, I heard it. Thank you for the bell.
Different things. I'm on the committees that we deal with the ugly stuff that's out there, and we have to deal with it. State Affairs and Judiciary Rules Committees, so that's the criminal area. AI child porn, that wasn't against the law in Idaho, and you can't tell the difference between AI child porn and regular porn. 85% of users, we are told, that look at that revenue census for fentanyl traffickers. That had opposition, believe it or not. Now we have that through. It took 4 years, and I've been working on it the last 2 years, so that made it through. And the definitions for man, woman, mother, father, boy, girl. Why should we have to do that? We have a U.S. Supreme Court justice who can't define woman, so we have to do that, and then that helps us to define all of our other laws. Very important that that passed. Also, human trafficking. We've redone the entire code in Idaho so that our police can arrest human traffickers and get convictions. Very important. No public funds for sex change procedures. If you want to do that as an adult, fine, but don't make me pay for it with my taxes, so out of the prison. That passed. That was my bill. Things that we failed at, a minimum fine for marijuana, the misdemeanor amounts. It's only $2.50 by one of our judges in the neighboring county. That's all he fines for marijuana. Tried to set that minimum, it didn't go through. We had some bleeding hearts. We have a very pro-drug underlying libertarian group. At the time.
I want to hear the bell.
Thank you, everyone. The next question for you, as you know, Star is, perhaps it says on here, but I would imagine everyone would agree, it's the fastest growing city in the state of Idaho. Do you think the legislature should do more to help the growth and the things that come with it, schools, roads, infrastructure? And do you think that the legislature should do more to help growth pay for growth? If so, what do you think should be done? As you know, Star is the fastest growing city. I'm reading it one more time. Do you think the legislature should do more to help growth pay for that growth? And if so, what do you think should be done? And we'll start with Mrs. Silva.
Can I hear that question just one more time?
Sure. As you know, Star is the fastest growing city in the state of Idaho. Do you think the legislature should do more to help growth pay for growth? And if so, what do you think should be done? Or if no, explain.
I don't think the legislature should pay for growth. Growth is something that happens kind of naturally. Like you said, it's one of the fastest growing cities. Who pays for that? People coming in or the legislative?
State.
State, excuse me. So Idaho does a really great job at selling itself.
I could think about that one for a long time. I think about a lot of stuff. A lot of you don't know this, but when you go and buy something with your sales tax, a percentage of that, almost 20% of it goes back to the local taxing districts, the cities, the counties, the fire hall, and others. And that is, we changed that formula so it goes where the growth is. So we've helped in the legislature send that money back where the growth is. So it's more homes and people come here, there's more money that comes back. One of the other things that the legislature's done the last couple of years, and you've seen it in your bill last year with the property taxes, is we sent money back from the general fund and incentivized, property tax relief, which is a good thing. We've helped do that. We've taken over more of the responsibilities at the local level. For example, the public defense and other things to try to provide more property tax relief. The concern is, though, as we go down that road, there comes a point where the state can't keep sending that money back, can't keep subsidizing the locals. There's a point where we're gonna get in trouble there. There's also a point where the growth needs to pay for itself, right? And that's why you're seeing a concern with the fire hall. We need to have more input from those that are moving here. There's talk about, and there's ways we can adjust impact fees to help do that, and there's some other things we can do. But again, remember, the growth is created locally, not by the state of Idaho. No property taxes, for example, come to the state of Idaho. And so the state has been trying to help with the growth, but there's a point too where that still is a local control issue. We do not want to come in and micromanage the cities. And so you see that dynamic in the legislature as we go forward. With that, I don't want the bill this time.
Boy, I cannot improve on that answer of Speaker Moyle's. He was right on everything that he said. I don't want him to get a big head, but he was right on there. So I'll just ditto on that one.
Just going in order. Yes, I think that growth needs to pay for itself, not so much the state, although the highway districts are partly controlled by the state. And it's very important that the impact fees actually pay for what's needed, and that we make sure that the infrastructure is in place before it's going to be stressed. And a subdivision that goes up, a giant subdivision that suddenly is supposed to funnel out of one little highway entrance, it's not a great plan. So developers do need to be held accountable for this. We also need not to waste our water resources, and I was also somewhat disappointed that a bill that came up this year did not pass that would have given people the right to use water-wise landscaping, irrespective of their homeowners association idea that they should have vast swaths of grass. Thank you.
Yeah, so as you heard, we have done a lot of things to be able to help, but it is a local control issue overall. There's things that the state legislature, the state government can do. We do set parameters for things as far as like impact fees, the way that we tax. But I think what I really want to start doing is having that conversation about property tax. I really think we need to get to the point, because I'm concerned about what I'm seeing globally transpire with property rights. And so I think the discussion needs to start moving to, when do you truly own your property? Once your house is paid off, you still have to pay taxes on that. And even if you don't pay $1, they can come in and take your house away. So let's start having that discussion on being able to get to a point where at a certain age, however we can set that up, where people can truly own their property. Because if you've heard the United Nations talk about that you will own nothing and be happy, and that is a very big, scary thought to me. So I want to start having that, and I think we do a great job of being able to give the districts do come to us, we talk with them to see where they need to, where they're going. We know the growth is occurring. Like I said, impact fees, also urban renewal, that's a big talking point for a lot of people. Urban renewal can be utilized as a double tax on homeowners, depending on where it's at. So there's things that we can improve on, but I think the property tax is a big one that we need to start jumping into.
Okay, well, a lot of, is this on? Yeah. What the legislature can do is within the parameters of our state constitution. There are only certain things that we can charge impact fees for. So to make growth pay for growth, we have to be creative in how we do that. I really appreciate the work that the legislature has done, that as property values have risen, so of course the property taxes, but they have provided relief, shifting that burden again away from property taxes onto the sales and income tax, which when our economy is booming, we have an excess and we're able to do that. We'll have to continue to be creative in the future to make that happen. I think a big part of this is just having relationships with your constituents, with the people of your district, and then also with your local governments as well, knowing what's most important to them, what their priorities are, what you can do to help them, and then also helping them manage. Every like entity has their things that they want, whether it's ITD or the City of Middleton or the City of Star, the Highway District. And so as a legislator, you can be a leader and a mitigator between those agencies and help everybody collaborate and come to something that will work for the community.
Speaker Moyle, we're going to start with you on this one. Recently, legislation was passed to allow the Merc here in Star to continue selling liquor. Do you think we should overhaul our liquor laws to end the state system and allow liquor to be sold in the competitive free market by private businesses as they do in many other states? Why or why not?
That's a funny question, because if you'd have told me that liquor bill would get as much attention as it did, but I wanted to make sure that our friends in Star had the opportunity to continue to sell liquor, because without it, the Star Milk would have been out of business, and I did not want the Star Milk out of business, and those people that are working there. We've talked, and if you watched last year, we did some big reforms last year on the liquor laws, and this year we took a few more steps at it. The state of Idaho, after Prohibition, kept control of it. It's almost like a monopoly. You saw with Star, for example, where we kind of of took that step away from them and gave it back a little bit more local control to those local individuals. You'll see more of that in the future. By constraining the liquor permits, for example, we force these liquor licenses to be worth a lot of money when they shouldn't be. We should, we're constraining the market and we're making it worse with the monopoly. So yeah, you'll see more changes. There were changes last year with Middleton now passing what they did, and now that they're, what do they call it, wet city? Is that how they call it? Wet, now that they're a wet city, now that they allow liquor sales, but that's pretty funny to say. But now that they allow that, you're gonna see some push there too, because there are gonna be businesses that are gonna want those licenses so that they compete with each other. So there's a lot that needs done there. There was actually a bill this year that would have allowed Star to get more liquor licenses and Middleton by using the river as a corridor. For years, we've done these carve-outs. We need to get rid of the carve-outs and fix the whole thing.
So, with the changes of the liquor license, or the benefit of a liquor license creates opportunity for economic growth. People spend money for your city. So I'm not extremely familiar, but it sounds to me like it's an opportunity to continue. I'm a competitor, so I know there's always going to be a winner or loser. So when you have businesses competing with these sales, it kind of creates a buzz of, oh, this business, that business, and that's income coming in. So I think that's all I can speak to on that.
Well, I'm not a drinker, so I know nothing about liquor, but I do understand that it's regulated differently, and it's more heavily regulated than other things we buy and sell in the state. And so if these laws, if we want to continue to make changes, then I would have to defer to the experts and seek counsel from people who know more about this than I do. I will say, however, that I did appreciate the law that was passed to help the Star Merc, and I think that's a really good example of fighting for your district, fighting for your constituents, and seeing what the needs are in your local communities and taking care of it at the state level.
I'm also not a drinker, but I have learned more about liquor in the legislature than what I ever thought I would ever learn about most things. And I've carried several of those bills. The waterfront bill I've carried twice, 2 years now in a row in the Senate, and we haven't been able to get it through on the House side yet, but I'm hopeful for number 3. Yes, I think, well, and I don't know, Speaker Moyle and I got many calls over the Star Merc, and he and I discussed it on what to do. So I'm glad we were able to come up with a solution for that. But yes, I think our liquor licenses, they need to be reformed. I have had a couple of gentlemen in my office the last couple of years that own a business in Boise that have just struggled because of the liquor laws that we have, not being able to obtain those licenses for their business. And I've worked with them, we've talked, we've tried to figure out ways that we can do it. But because we do all these carve-outs continually, we're never reforming to the extent that we really need to, and the government's still picking winners and losers. So New Mexico did something similar where they had very similar liquor laws in their state, and they burnt that all down and built it back up, and I love how they actually did that. So I think that's one state that we should probably look to on how to reform our liquor laws. I don't think the government should be picking winners and losers for businesses. I think people should be able to operate their businesses the way that they need to, and I'm sure we'll have some more carve-outs maybe this next session, but hopefully we can start jumping in there. And that's one of my speeches I give on the floor when we do the liquor bills, is I say we need to reform it. So anyway, yes, we need to reform it.
And I am also not a drinker. It's just not nice. But I don't think that the state should be controlling a particular good like that. And the necessity of making particular carve-outs looks like it's actually against our Constitution, which says that the legislature should not make special local laws. Really, we need to make one standard that can allow everyone to run their business as they see fit. And the only thing we need to worry about is the behavior of those who are using the liquor. They can't drive when they're drunk, and so forth. That's the government's business. The actual sale is not really, the government's business to constrain.
I serve on the State Affairs Committee, and all of these liquor laws come through our committee. But it's kind of funny because we're all Baptists or Mormons on there. So we have to get educated on this. Yes, there's room for reform. There needs to be some reform. I'm not open to full no regulation whatsoever. I've been to other states where there's no regulation on the liquor dispensing, and it's not been a good thing for the communities there. That's my observation. But I'm open to learn.
Great, thank you. Let's see, we'll start, who have we started with yet? Bishop, we'll start with you on this one. Knowing and talking a little bit this evening about the challenges that STAR is experiencing, maybe even the state, what would your goals be as a legislator for the next 2 years?
Well, it's been really good to get more involved in the communities of STAR and to learn about what their challenges and what they're working on. And you guys have a really great thing going on here. You have a great mayor, you have a great police chief, you have great councilmen, and so I would, for STAR, I would just want to keep greasing the wheels and make sure you can keep doing what you've been doing. But for me, as a legislator, I mentioned this before, but one of my primary goals would be to work with Superintendent Critchfield on modernizing the school funding formula. I think that it hasn't been updated in about 30 years, and I have some ideas, some ideas that I think would in particular help our rural schools. And even though, you know, the area that we live in is not quite so rural anymore, our natural resources are still out in the rural areas. Our good farming ground, our water, our timber, our mining, and we have to keep those areas viable, good places to live, so that we have people who will be good stewards over those natural resources. And part of that comes from having good schools. Schools are the heart of the community in these little towns, and so that's why I'm so passionate about education and redoing that funding formula.
Well, I'm not too familiar with the current issues in STAR, but I'm excited to learn. And then once I have a good handle on that, I'd be more than happy to come back with an answer.
So we're specific to STAR, or are we the district as a whole?
I'll let you start with STAR, and if you have any time left.
Okay, we're back to the cowbell. Is that what you're saying? You'll see if I'm reelected, I'll continue to push on tax relief. Property taxes are still something that there's more that needs to address there. You're also seeing, I've been working with the fire chief here in STAR in Middleton, trying to find a path forward where we prevent the new folks from raising the taxes of those that are living here now, and find a way to help provide more revenue for the fire district and not raise tax on everybody else. So we've got some ideas, and we'll continue to work on that specifically to STAR. Statewide, you'll see me do, like I mentioned earlier, the push to continue the budget process reforms. Yeah, there he is. Where's your pants? Anyways, you'll see me continue the push to reform the budget process. While we've got the budget split on the votes, and we've got now the maintenance budget versus the add-ons, which, by the way, so you understand what a difference it made. Last year, the budget growth in the state of Idaho was over 12%. This year was 1.7. What we did works, but we still need to delve in, like I said earlier, on the zero-based budgeting. We need to delve into more of that. You'll see me push that again, because I want to get that done. There's more that needs to be done on the judicial reform, and there's more that needs to be done on the rules. There's some touch-up there that we need to pick up. And then we need to address the school issue, right? We keep shooting around the target, but there's more that needs to be done in regard to school funding and making sure that we get the bang for the buck for the money that goes there, but make sure that the money it provides choice, in my opinion, but also provides a good education for all our children.
Being law enforcement oriented, that's who I listened to. Mayor Trevor Chadwick, he insisted on the fentanyl bill that we did get passed. He even came and testified for that. We need to give our law enforcement the tools they need to be successful in fighting the real crime and the real criminals. Also, there's a squatters bill issue. Maybe you've seen some of that on the news. The bill is drafted. We're ready to go forward with that as soon as we start the session to address that. The marijuana, I want to go the opposite way the rest of the country is going on marijuana, because we've seen how it's trashed other states. And I think we'll get some harsher penalties on that this coming session. Immigration, that was my bill, along with Jerry Crane's bill. We brought that at the end of session to give our law enforcement ability to look into the background of those they pull over on a traffic stop or involved in a crime. Right now they can do shoplifting and somebody doesn't speak English and they're not allowed to pursue whether they're illegals or not. We have to stop that and change it. Senate didn't hear it, but again, it was at the end of session, so we need to push that through. Now, that's not popular, but we need to push that through and give our law enforcement the tools to deal with that, because if they can't identify the potential criminals that may be going from town to town because they pull the illegal card and you can't touch me, that's really happening right now. So those are things we need to address, and that helps STAR and everywhere else. So.
My priorities would be fully funding our public education and making sure that wherever our money goes, that the schools are accountable for what they've done with that money, that they have actually educated the children to the standards that they should be educated to. But also the enforcement of renters' rights to a livable building, and tackling the problem of private equity buying up all the single-family homes, outbidding people who are trying to get a house for themselves, and suddenly somebody comes in. Cash offer. No, individuals don't make cash offers. Those are private equity firms. Those are out-of-staters, sometimes even out of country, that are buying up our homes so that they can raise the rents through the roof. And that is going to have to be dealt with. So, I thought I saw something. I would like to see our AG also join with the attorneys general of several other states against RealPage, the price-fixing software, which is illegal under Idaho Constitution, price fixing.
Yeah, so besides the budget and continuing down that path road and working on tax issues, lessening property taxes, that sort of thing, I still want to go back to school choice is still one thing that I want to see happen. We have states all over. Missouri just passed theirs just a couple of weeks ago for universal school choice, and that is the push. People in Idaho do want to see that transpire. I think we need to remove ourselves from the federal government as much as we possibly can, because with federal dollars come strings attached, and we are becoming more and more reliant on the federal government in many different ways. I want to help people to get back to self-sufficiency, and so I have a bill that's drafted for next session that's called the chicken bill, so that people can raise chickens, not roosters, but chickens on their properties, to be able to have that. I'd like to see an education for the career ladder to be reformed. I think we need to do a better job. It seems like the more and more that we mess with that, the more involved that it gets. Like I said, the anti-swatting, that helps all of our communities, and it protects our first responders, it protects the public. And right now in Idaho, if someone makes a prank call, a hoax call, so that gets the police or the SWAT team out there, all it is a misdemeanor and a false police report in the state of Idaho. So we need to bring some more into that. Immigration, every state has a border crisis that's going on right now. So we need to bring those things into play to try to decentivize people that are trying to come here illegally. I've talked with several sheriffs all over the state, and that is the big thing that they say is you have to stop incentivizing people from coming here. So E-Verify, where we can put that into play, yeah.
Okay, this is the last of our 90-second questions for all. A lot of out-of-state money has been spent in District 10, possibly more out-of-state money than in-state money. What do you think of those efforts, and do you think the legislature can or should act and do something about it? I'll take a volunteer. Who wants to start? Senator Nichols.
Yes, I do think there needs to be something done. Speaker Moyle and I have talked about that many times over the last several weeks. We're starting to look at what other states are doing, and I would agree, there's a lot of outside money that has been spent, a lot of lies, a lot of misinformation, and it's unfortunate. And so, yes, we do need to start putting some consequences into play. I was on the phone all day with the Secretary of State's office today and attorneys and all that fun stuff because of the information that's coming out. And you know, we as public representatives, the slander and libel laws apply differently to us than they do the regular community. And so that makes it a little bit harder for us to try to pursue anything when that information is coming out. Even if you have a really great case, if you were just a regular person, probably be a slam dunk, but as a sitting representative, it does not work the same for us. So I do think we need to start doing that because it's not good for you as the voters. It causes a lot of contention, a lot of confusion, and also for us. And so, yes, what exactly is the right answer to fix that yet? We don't know because this is the first election cycle that I've actually been through where this type of money and everything has been spent the way it has. So, yes.
Is we need a lot more transparency in the kind of PACs that are spending this money that's not under the sunshine laws that we as candidates are filling out, where we can ask our friends and relatives who don't live in this state to contribute a little money, and that's fine. But there are very organized efforts that need to be made more transparent or made more difficult. And negative campaigning is generally a bad thing. I would like to see all candidates given fora like this to speak to the public, and possibly the state could run that so that we would have not so much a state-funded election system, but a state-promoted election system where getting your ideas out in front of the voters is the primary thing. Thank you.
I'm appalled what I'm seeing, especially Tammy and Senator Tammy and Speaker Moyle. The things that are coming in the mail are outright lies. They're not just twisted truths. Some of them are twisted truths from out-of-state dark money. They're just flat lies. The one I got the other day said Speaker Moyle killed some bill. Well, it died in a committee and never made it to him, but I know for a fact he wanted that bill to get out of committee, was trying to get members to get that bill through. So they're just outright lies. And that money, some of that is pro-drug money. You wonder why they don't care about the issues so much they put on those cards, but they want people gone. They're going to let us that would not fight against legalizing drugs. Well, Moyle is one of those. Senator Tammy Nichols is one of those. We're not going to legalize drugs. So they're coming at in an oblique, trying to take people out, that they're not going to let us have those legal drugs in this state. So it needs to be fought, and I'll support any bills we can come up with to fight it.
So now I gotta be really careful not to use farm language. If you would have told me that these drug pushers and liberals from out of state with their hundreds of thousands of dollars would come in here and say the lies and bull maneuver about me that they're doing, I would have never believed it. And if you would have told me the number of people that live in Idaho today that are believing that bull maneuver, I wouldn't have believed that either. And I think a lot of that comes because they come from other states where they're used to this garbage. This is Idaho. For crying out loud, this is Idaho. And then lie about me. And in fact, I went and saw an attorney, and Senator Nichols is exactly right. I can't sue them over the lies because I'm an elected official. They can say whatever they want, but I'll tell you who they are. None of them live in this state. They're all pushing drugs. Bruce has got it all the way on. The other group are a bunch of liberals because they see blood in the water with the sitting speaker and they think they can get rid of him and get their way. When they came and visited with me, they said, "Thou shalt do this or else." I'm not that guy. You're not going to tell me how I'm going to vote. I'm going to vote what's best for the rest of you out here. We've got to fix this next legislative session. If I'm reelected, you'll see some changes. I don't want to go through this again. I don't think you do. I was at Jack's house the other night. He had 6 negative flyers in one day, and all of them lies. I visited with the press. They've done the fact checks. Yeah, they're not true. And I don't know how to take the pain away from you either, but I assure you, I feel the pain But I just hope that Idahoans are smart enough not to fall for these lies and misrepresentation, and you can ring the bell.
I actually really appreciate you addressing, or all of you addressing dark money and the negative impacts that influence has. Because on a Democratic end, we hear, the boogeyman stories, or we get information, also misrepresenting Democrats as well, as far as like abortion after birth. That's murder, just so everyone's aware. That's not okay. That is not a thing. So thank you for addressing that. That it creates an understanding, and it helps me understand where you're coming from, and it helps me skew my, I guess, interpretation of who I thought you were. So I absolutely think that should be a transparency, and I hope there is a bill that comes through that addresses that.
It sounds like we all have some agreement on this issue. We're all tired of the negative campaigning. It's not the Idaho way. It's been frustrating to me as a candidate because I'm out and about among the voters, talking to them, trying to figure out what's important to them, and instead we get sidetracked talking about this negative campaign with the shirt that's coming out and the lies that are being spread, and I'd rather talk about the Idaho issues. I think maybe the only good piece of this is that a lot of it will probably backfire. So the other thing is there is a bill, Secretary McGrain has tried to get a voter's guide going, and that's something that I would support, a voter's guide that so that you would know someplace that you could go to see all the candidates, to see what they have to say, and use that instead of just researching on Facebook or doing Google or something. It would be a standard form where everyone could see who was running for each office.
All right, now we're going to be getting into some of the questions that were submitted from the general public. These are 90-second candidate-specific questions that came from the public. So we'll start off with, let's start off with Senator Nichols. Let's see. Because of your voting record, you've been painted as an anti-agricultural and anti-water user. Why have you voted the way you have on those issues, and how do you think your votes affect individual farmers and water users, from farmers to homeowners associations?
So I don't know exactly which bills they referenced since I've been in for 6 years. There's a lot of different bills that we take on. There have been bills though that have had, like I said, you can't just vote a bill, you have to vote it up or down. There's things that may be in there though that I see that might be a negative. I know that there has been some of those bills that have tied the federal government into things. There's been some that have brought in ARPA money, which was the COVID relief money. And so, I'm always glad to talk with people about that. I love agriculture. I go on all the agriculture tours. I want to know what's going on. My grandparents, they did farm, and I work with like the Idaho Farm Bureau on some of the bills. I started a new section of code for urban agriculture this year that we passed to be able to create that section for people that live in urban areas to be able to grow food and to be able to do farming that way. We also passed the Farm Preservation Act to be able to preserve our farmland. So farmland is very important. It's very critical to Idaho, but I want to make sure that the federal government's not getting tied up in that. We do need to make sure that we're protecting our water and our water rights. And when the federal government starts coming, asking for provisions that are put into some of those bills, that's a concern for me.
This next question is for candidate Bishop. You've posted #UsedToBeGOP and publicly said you voted for President Biden. Given this, do you consider yourself to be a traditional Republican, and why do you believe you deserve the Republican nomination for this seat in this conservative district?
Well, just like we were talking about a few minutes ago, there's a lot of lies that are being passed around, a lot of slander, a lot of fuzzy screenshots and supposedly things that I've said, and that's not true. It's not a secret among my friends that I'm not a big fan of President Trump. I didn't vote for either one of them. When I don't have a good choice in a race, I write in my husband's name. So that's all I have to say about that.
Okay. For Speaker Moyle, This is coming from the public. Most of us could heat our homes for a month with the number of postcards we kind of talked about. Some of them even have called you the Swamp King. Who is behind this?
Drop my crown.
Who is behind this campaign, and how much money do you think that they've spent? And are you the Swamp King?
No, if I was king, I wouldn't be going through this. I can assure you that. If I was king, I said I wouldn't be going through it. I can assure you that. The money's coming from all out-of-state groups. They're not locally. So the one group is Texas via Virginia to here. We know about that group. Their big issue is legalizing drugs. That's why I call them the drug pushers. The other group, we believe, no offense, but they believe they're Democrats. They haven't filed their reports. They're playing games. They were supposed to have them filed when they started. They haven't. I'm assuming they'll file them on Monday, and then we'll know more about who they are. And they've dumped like 75,000. The drug pushers, I believe, they're at about 150,000. And I want you to think about this, guys. If they can buy my seat, they can buy every seat up here. So do you want somebody buying these seats in the legislature? You keep tolerating and letting them get their way with this dark money. But hopefully we can survive this, and if we can survive this, we can change the law. They're saying that this could be one of, if not the most expensive legislative seat in Idaho history because of the pros and the cons. All those good flyers of mine, you can use those to burn after you read them. The rest of them, they're not gonna, there'll be more. And I apologize for that. I apologize for what you're going through, but hopefully we can fix this problem so that in the future this goes away. And again, I would caution you, if they can buy this seat, they can buy any seat in that legislature, and you will have California again, you will have Washington, you'll have Oregon, you'll have Colorado, you will have a mess controlled by out-of-state money.
Okay, now we've reached our lightning round. So we're going to ask some questions that either have a yes or no answer or a one-word answer. Tammy, we're going to start with you and just come right down the table. So in January, all newly elected officials will be sworn in. By statute, the oath is to uphold both the U.S. and the state of Idaho constitutions. Yes or no? Have you read both constitutions?
Yes, multiple times.
Janet Parker?
Yes, I have.
Representative Skaug?
Yes.
Speaker Moyle?
Yep.
Candidate Silva?
Still reading through them.
Candidate Bishop?
Yes.
And we'll start on the other end. Mrs. Bishop. Yes or no, would you support allowing sex change procedures for children?
No.
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 Okay, let's see. Let's start with Representative Skaug, and we'll go around this way. Yes or no? Do you favor term limits for our statewide office holders?
No.
Candidate Parker?
No.
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 Yes.
Statewide, no.
We'll start, let's see, we'll start with candidate Parker and go the other way. One word answer. Who will you vote for come for president in November?
Biden.
Trump.
Trump.
Neither.
Trump. Trump, I'm a delegate.
Okay, and now we've come to our final question of the night. Your answer to this question is perhaps the most critical and important question you have faced this evening and likely to sway many voters next week. Let's see, where are we going to start? Let's start with Candidate Bishop and go down the table. Yes or no? Does pineapple belong on pizza?
Yes.
Heck no.
Yes.
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 All right. We're gonna get into the closing remarks. For these closing remarks, we'll have 60 seconds for the closing remarks. We want to thank you for being here, obviously, this evening. For your closing remarks, you can touch on what your goals would be as an elected official. It could also be the things that are the differences between the candidates that you're running against, or just your goals in general for the next 2 years. For this, we'll start with Bruce, and we'll come this way and back around.
Thank you, Bruce Skaug, Seat B. I've already touched on some of the things we're going to do this next session, and I think I will be there since I don't have a Republican opponent. You'll hurt my feelings if you don't check the box on my name when there's no other name. So appreciate your vote. But we need to do it with civility. And Ronald Reagan's 11th commandment, I try to hold by that. Thou shalt not speak ill of another fellow Republican. And we need to abide by that. And sometimes you hear about infighting in our House of Representatives. It's not at all what you hear or represented. We get along very well. We've done bipartisan bills. I have with Democrats, where it's a good bill. We do get along very well, even if we go head to head and somebody's crying during the debate. We'll still get along well. So with civility, continue on and keep Idaho. Idaho is my goal.
One of the first things I did when I became speaker is I started all the meetings with prayer. Caucus meetings, leadership meetings. I think one of the things we have in this country that's a problem is we've lost God. God's not in the meetings. You saw that tonight. We didn't start with a prayer. Prayer is very important thing. Being in the position I am now, going through all these lives and watching the things said about me is really difficult for me, right? Because if that's where our country's gone to, that prayer thing doesn't work. So I spend a lot of time praying. If I get reelected, you'll see me try to fix that so nobody else has to go through this. It's not right. It's not right for you to have to put up with it, and I apologize. If I'm reelected, you'll see me do some more stuff on the judicial reform. You'll see me do some more stuff on the budgets. There's more to get done there. You'll see me do what I have done, and the reason I ran for the legislature in the first place was to cut taxes. I've cut more than anybody in Idaho history. I grew up here. A lot of you that have moved here are new to Idaho, and you moved here because we have what you wanted. I helped create that. And if you will re-elect me, I will continue to keep this the place that you came here that you love as much as I do. Thank you.
I just am kind of grateful for the opportunity to be sitting in front of all of you. I am running for the first time, so probably should have maybe ran as a Republican. Just kidding. As I continue to learn and grow and be able to be in this company, sitting at this table it's a growth opportunity, and I'm fortunate. So as I continue my campaign, I will look to the leaders that have already paved some of that way, and just know that I will continue with the same integrity and the same, fears that you all show.
So when I was growing up in small town Idaho, we could walk from the school to the grocery store, we could walk from the swimming pool to our friend's house. We were safe in our streets, we were safe in our public spaces, and that's the kind of place I want to keep Idaho. I want to keep it a safe place where we can raise strong families. I want to implement policies that will strengthen and support families. I want to have a good, robust public education system where we are all comfortable sending our kids to school. We feel like it's a safe place for them. I want to protect the kids from the things that are coming from social media and things that can be implemented in the schools if we're not careful as parents and as leaders in the community to keep them there. And so I hope you'll give me a chance and vote for me on next Tuesday.
Thank you again for having us and for the chamber for putting this on. Again, Senator Tammy Nichols, District 10. I'm known as the Peopletician, and the reason that I'm known as that is because I'm the lobbyist for the people that can't afford a lobbyist. So that's the everyday person. I get contacted from people all over the state that ask for my help because their representatives won't help them, won't assist them. So they'll say, I'm not in your district, but I was told that I should call you. And so I really appreciate that. I appreciate that people have that they feel that they can approach me in that manner. Some of the things that I want to do, we've talked about a lot of our upcoming stuff that we'd like to work on, but really it boils down to me to be able to protect our state, to be able to keep it the state that we love, the state that people came here for, and that has to do with protecting our rights, that has to do with upholding the Constitution, that has to do with being able to pull away from the federal government so that we don't have that control over us. But my big thing also is school choice still. That's still a critical thing. I think we have to reach our youth. There's so much happening with our youth that's forming our nation for the future.
Thank you to the Star Chamber of Commerce and our moderators for giving us the opportunity to put forth our views and let voters know where we stand. That seems to be the most important part of campaigning for any seat, is that voters know who you are and whether they agree with you or not. I really want to represent all of the people in my district, whether it's the Caldwell parents who can barely feed their kids because the rent's gone up, doubled in the last year, or the people in Star worried about the highways and the growth, or the woman in Middleton rural area who wants horse trails to remain just for horses and not for noisy ATVs, so that we can share this beautiful state at peace with each other.
Well, on behalf of the chamber, we just want to thank all of you for coming this evening. Star Spirit will be putting together a video recording to be able to share with the citizens and our membership. So we appreciate you being here. If we could all give them all a round of applause for being here. To stick around for a few minutes for those that are in the audience that might have some specific questions to get to know some of those candidates. We welcome you to do so now, and we'll call this candidate forum to
Almost dead. So I just want to get some quick voter information out there for people who may not know this. So if you're eligible to vote but you haven't registered to vote yet, you can actually register to vote on election day at your polling place. If you received an absentee ballot and haven't submitted it yet, it's probably too late to mail it, but there is a drop box behind City Hall. You can drop it there before 8 p.m. On election day, which is this Tuesday. And hope to see you all out at the polls on Tuesday. And thank you very much for coming this evening.